Hey guys, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. On this week's episode of Library Macabre, I'm going to be reviewing Bad Man by Dathan Arbach. Bad Man is an adult horror thriller that is released by Doubleday and Blumhouse Books. It is by the author of Pen Pal, which was a self-published horror novel that made a really big splash over the past couple of years. I haven't read Pen Pal yet, but it is sitting on my shelves waiting to be read. I just ordered a copy recently, so I should be getting to that soon. But when the publisher contacted me, offering me a free copy of the book in exchange for an honest review, of course, I had to say yes. I mean, it's published in part by Blumhouse, who, as you know, is putting out the brand new Halloween film later this year, which I'm very, very excited for. And they're just a great production company in general. They do a great job servicing the horror community. So just the fact that the Blumhouse logo was on this book was promise enough for me. Getting into the actual plot of Bad Man, it follows a young man named Ben, whose brother was kidnapped 5 years ago. The boy was kidnapped while under Ben's care at the local supermarket in town. Ever since then, Ben's life has become a downward spiral. He can't find a job. It took him a long time to complete high school. He's just really having a hard time. So, out of desperation and to help his family get by, so he says, he gets a job at the supermarket in town, the same one where his brother was last seen at. He's telling his family that the only reason he has this job is so that way he can make money to help them, and that it's the only job available, when really that's just an excuse so that way he can stake out the store, because he feels like there's something wrong with the store. And as it turns out, he might be right. Now, while this is being marketed strongly as horror, I would not really categorize it as that. I would call it more of a dark thriller. There are scenes with very creepy imagery that kind of verge on horror, but it never really goes there. It gets pretty dark, but it doesn't get to a point where I felt like I was reading a horror novel. It just felt mostly like a thriller. Now, of course, horror is a very broad genre, and I'm always preaching that to people. Just because a book doesn't scare you doesn't mean it's not horror. So I guess if you look at it that way, this book could be categorized as a kind of true-to-life horror story. But really, it's a thriller. So with that being said, Bad Man definitely focuses more on the emotional aspect and the characters than it does the horrific side of the story. It follows Ben very closely as he investigates the store and talks to all of the workers there and becomes very close friends with a couple of them. One in particular, who is Marty, who I loved. He was my favorite character in this book. And actually, after I read the author's note in the back of this book, I grew to appreciate him even more because the author actually based that character on a real friend that he had while working in a supermarket himself years ago. So I definitely appreciated that character even more after I read that. So if you started reading this book and you didn't finish it, because I know that there are a couple out there who didn't finish this book for reasons, and I'll get to that, I definitely recommend going to the back of the book and just reading the author's note. It's very, very sweet, it's very touching, and I definitely think that it made me appreciate the book a little bit more. Considering this book does focus a little bit more on the emotional aspect than the plot, I did get a little bit connected to the story, but not quite as much as I wanted to. I could have been a little more attached to what was going on, but the main thing that takes away from that is the fact that the book is very, very slow. Bad Man definitely takes its time getting to the point, and it is a rather chunky book, and the font is fairly small, so it's not going to be something that you fly through on a weekend. The big reveals in this book are pretty few and far between, so what you're mostly reading is Ben exploring the store and just kind of communicating with the other workers and his parents and to the local town officials and trying to figure out what happened to his brother. The book did get pretty repetitive at times, and I felt that there was a lot that could have been cut out. So overall, that is the main drawback of this book, and I want to go ahead and get that out of the way before I talk about anything else. Alright, so on to the good things, the things that I liked about Bad Man. The characters are not black and white, especially Ben. When you're reading, you don't really know who to trust. Even Ben, because Ben starts to doubt himself at times. He doesn't know if he is remembering things correctly, or if somebody is just messing with him. But throughout the book, you have reasons to doubt him, you have reasons to doubt other characters. You don't really know who is telling the truth. And I think that's where the darkness really comes into the story, because everybody has a dark side, no matter how good they may seem. And Badman definitely explores that and does a pretty good job of it too. So my final verdict of Badman is that I can't really recommend it because of the slow pace, and I can't really not recommend it. So I'm going to leave this one up to you guys. If this sounds like your cup of tea, definitely give it a try. But if you like your books action-packed with a lot of scares, this isn't going to do it for you, I'm sorry. I feel like Badman could have been better, but I don't regret reading it, so I'm going to give it a solid 3 stars. It was fine. So that is my review of Badman. This book is available now from Doubleday Books and Blumhouse Books. Of course, I will post links down below in the graveyard where you can order this book if you're interested. And please check back later for another episode of Library Macabre. I am reading this book right here. It is called Under the Blade by Matt Serafini. It is a horror slasher that I'm really looking forward to reviewing for you guys. And I also have some other ideas brewing. And just a hint at what's to come, if you like these books, stay tuned. Alright, thank you all so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Later, creeps.